The Horned Warrior's Greatsword. It's one of those weapons that gives a new DLC spin on an old Ash of War, and has the flashy, curved Greatsword moveset to back it up. The weapon drops from the final Horned Warrior before the Leda and allies fight. He won't stagger like many of the other elite enemies in the game, so learn the attack chains and take his sword when you're done with him. We have the curved Greatsword moveset on this weapon. The R1s are a chain of diagonal slashes, and the R2s are heavy smashing attacks. This is a curved Greatsword, so we do solid poise damage, and using exclusively the moveset is not the worst way to complete the game. The Ash of War is Horn-Calling Storm, and may seem familiar to anyone who's seen Stormcaller before. This is because it is almost identical to Stormcaller, being a slower and longer range version of it. Stormcaller has a pretty fast startup time and is safe to use in many attack windows. Horn-Calling is much slower, so we'll have less opportunities to use this Ash of War when we're up close to the enemy. However, because we have much more range on this move, due to the gargantuan horn growth that juts out of the sword during the move, we can be far away from our target and still land a hit or two. In a game where we all focus on dodging with iframes, it's fun to use a move where we can emphasize spacing instead. Also, like Stormcaller, there are two follow-up inputs to Horn-Calling Storm. Predictably, these inputs are slower than their base game cousins. Keep that in mind before you tap L2. The only spells I had were the good old Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength. The Horned Warrior Greatsword deals exclusively physical damage, so the damage increase, damage negation increase, and physical damage increase will help make our moveset and Ash of War all the more effective. Only sticking to these two spells will also give us more FP for the Ash. We start with a Flask, then Golden Vow, and then Flame Grant Me Strength. Opening moves in most fights are very predictable, so we can land a fully powered Ash of War to start the fight. Stick mostly to the moveset in a fast fight with enemies that don't stagger, like Ratigan. If you're fighting an NPC type enemy, feel free to treat the Ash of War button as the win button. My talisman setup was built around powering up the Ash of War, but you can go a couple of different ways with this build with minimal playstyle adjustments. Use the two-handed sword talisman and the axe talisman if you find yourself more inclined to use the R1s and the R2s. The Ash of War is a multi-hit attack, so successive attack power builds can work here. I didn't really want to bother with it much this run, since I just did a playthrough with a Falx, and that weapon begs you to abuse the successive attack power boost to its fullest extent. Be sure to let me know if you've used the Horned Warrior's Greatsword before, and what your favorite curved greatsword is. I had fun with this run, but Morgott's Cursed Sword and the Bloodhound's Fang felt much more powerful to me. Those two are right at the top as my favorites in the class. The talismans I ran with were the Enraged Divine Beast for 10% more power with the Ash of War, the Shard of Alexander for 15% more power with the Ash of War, the Dragoncrest Greatshield to keep us tanky in the long Ash of War animation, and the Two-Headed Turtle Talisman for better stamina regen. I mixed up the tiers a couple times, but my most used were the Opaline Horror tier for 15% more damage negation, and the Bloodsucking Crack tier for 20% more damage with health drain. We do physical damage on this build, so this is the most straightforward way to give ourselves a generous damage boost. Our stats at RL170 are 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 32 Endurance, 80 Strength, 16 Dexterity, and 25 Faith. I used 80 Strength instead of 54 Strength because the two-handing does not increase the damage of the Ash of War. The Horned Warrior's Greatsword was not the most fun I've had with a curved greatsword in Elden Ring, but it was a fun time using a cool DLC weapon. I'll be sure to use more curved greatswords in the future, and perhaps return to some of my favorites. Also, if I come off tired at all during this video, the Eagles won the Super Bowl last night as of recording this. I am tired, but very pleased.